Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to the channel. My name's Chris, and in this video I'm going to demonstrate 5 easy ways to remove rounded, stripped, or damaged Allen hex socket bolts, but they're better known as socket head cap screws. There are lots of different variables when using fasteners, from rust, dirt and debris, or even Loctite. Before I covered the 5 simple techniques that I use and are really successful with, let me show you just some of the few fastener types that we're going to be talking about today. As the probability that you need to replace that damaged fastener is really high, you might want to head down to your local Ace Hardware where they can help you find many different fastener types. Here you can see this socket head cap screw. Now these are all metric. We'll throw up some suggested torque values on there because in addition to making sure your fastener is properly tightened, you don't want to over tighten it. Here you can see the flat countersunk head cap screw. Again, these are all in metric, and here's some torque values for them. And here's another common one, the button head cap screw. And lastly, here is a socket set screw. Notice that I didn't say the word bolt. That's because all of these fasteners don't have a nut attached to it. Now let's get on to the top 5 easiest, fastest, and most efficient ways to remove damaged hex Allen socket fasteners. So here we have an M8 fastener. We're going to go ahead and tighten this down to a little over 37 foot-pounds. And one of my favorite things about all the demos I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be making sure they're torqued down to real-world scenarios where your fasteners are super tight. And this is actually really a lot of torque on here. So you can see we torqued that down to 40.2 foot-pounds. And you can see that that's a lot of torque that it even jammed up and bit into that hex fastener slightly because that's a lot of torque on there. We're going to go ahead and now round out this fastener. There you can see we are nice and fully rounded out. Go ahead and zoom in here for you. Here we have the Ingersoll Rand Tech Solutions 8-piece metric non-slip hex bit socket set. They also do come in SAE. Let's go test these out and see how they work. These, we need to tap these in just a little bit. That way you're fully seated in there, and we're going to be using an impact driver on this. Now we do have quite a bit of play in here, so it may not work. But you can see you were able to zip off that hex. That damaged hex came right off. You can see that Ingersoll Rand had no issues taking that off. Another option is your Mac Tools RBRT for rounded bolt removal technology. Let's go test them out. So we'll go ahead and tighten this fastener down again to around 40 foot-pounds. That's a lot of torque on here. So we tighten that down to 40.5 foot-pounds. And now we'll go ahead and try our Mac RBRT for rounded bolt removal technology. Again, we'll go ahead and tap that in here. And then we'll use our impact. And our Mac RBRT was able to remove that. So we'll go ahead with our standard hex and see if we're able to remove this. And we are not able to remove it. And that is actually fully damaged. So this is where the question becomes, if you're too late to a damaged fastener, are you able to get this off with one of the removal technologies for damaged fasteners? Chances are you are not, because you're going to need a percentage of the sidewalls still available, whether you use the Mac RBRTs or even the Ingersoll Rand. So we will try the Ingersoll Rand here and see if we're able to remove this. And because I only have one chance at this, I'm going to try the Impact. Wish me luck. And we are not able to remove it, which means the Mac RBRT will probably not be able to remove it either. We're going to go ahead and just try the Mac RBRT by hand. But again, chances are, because that fastener is so damaged, yeah, we're not able to remove it with the Mac RBRT as well. So now what do you do when you're in a situation like this? You can try your bolt extractors. In this case, this one is going to be too short. We'd have to make sure we go out and purchase a new one or lop this down and see if we're able to get it out. So if you get in a pinch and you find yourself not knowing what to do, sometimes you can jam in a Torx bit inside there and then it creates its own threads. But honestly, your best bet is some of the triple squares. Those really fit pretty close on a lot of rounded off hex fasteners, and it's easier to pound that in. You may not be getting it out anytime soon, but it does work. And a lot of times it helps to grind those edges down. We're going to see if we're going to be able to do that without that today. I'm really liking our odds with this Torx T45 bit. So we're going to go ahead and snug this down. And you can see we're at 33.5 foot-pounds. Go ahead and see if the Torx bit is able to take this off. And there you go. You don't have to believe it, but that's pretty impressive. Now, a triple square has more splines on it than a Torx bit, so this works really well on very rounded fasteners. Let's test it out. So again, the triple square had no problem blazing through, powering through that damaged hex Allen fastener. Let's try something else. So if you're not already subscribed to the channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. That way you won't miss out on any future upcoming videos, like when we go ahead and stress test all these adjustable wrenches. Or you could try a slightly larger hex bit, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to try to pound this in and then see if we're able to get it out. In this case, we created a whole lot more of a mess. But we're going to see if we can put maybe a socket on that hex. So we're going to use a deep well on there. And thankfully, we were able to remove that. We'll again go ahead and tighten this down. Tighten that down to 38.3 foot-pounds. And I'll admit I don't always have the best luck with left-handed drill bits, but we will go ahead and try that and see if we're able to force that out. So when that's really tight, there just isn't any way that that left-handed drill bit is going to grab that fastener and remove it. That's when you're going to want to try something like your Knipex Cobra. We'll go ahead and attempt to remove that here. And you can see that pliers is a good option, as well as your vice grips or another set of vice grips over here. So pliers are really good options on fasteners like this. So other ways to get that off might consist of using a channel lock. And a channel lock will do it. Another way might be a nice pair of vice grips with really, really nice new sharp teeth on there. Locked in there. And then you're able to remove that with a pair of vice grips. So again, when your fastener is really damaged, you might try a screw out, an easy out, a speed out, or anything that's going to be able to extract this. But in my case, this just didn't work because it wasn't big enough. So what other options do we have left? Well, let's go ahead and tighten down this fastener and show you the option where you basically grind out a slit and then simply use a flathead screwdriver and unscrew it. So let's get to it. So that was pretty easy. We used the Hercules grinder there, and we were able to use a cutoff wheel and just cut out a slit in there. Now simply select your favorite flathead screwdriver. In this case, we're going to use the Icon screwdriver because it's got that bolster nut on there. We can attach a wrench to it, and then we can apply a lot more torque. So without that wrench, we wouldn't be able to have enough torque. There you can see we were able to break that free and basically just unscrew it like a regular screw. So not a problem. You can see the Icon screwdriver held up very well. It's not bent or deformed, and it worked really, really well. So again, go ahead and tighten this down to roughly around 40 foot-pounds. So we tighten that to 40.4 foot-pounds, which again is way more torque on that than you would need. And another option you might consider is putting a nut or another type of fastener on top of this so that you can get some traction. So the key here is it just has to hold. It doesn't have to look pretty. It's just got to hold. Let's go ahead and see if we're able to take this off. And we're able to remove that fastener with no issues, thanks to that nut that we welded on there. Now, depending on your application, you're bound to run into some red Loctite or even the green wicking kind. Depending on your application, if you're using smaller fasteners, just a soldering iron will simply do the trick for some of those smaller fasteners that are damaged or you want to ensure they come out. Now, on the larger ones, you can use a little torch like this or even a larger one. This simply helps to melt and unbind that thread locker or Loctite, and it really helps to ensure that you're not going to round off that fastener the first time and makes your job a whole lot easier. Now, the last super simple, easy piece of information I can embark on you is if you're using a metric tool, make sure you're working with metric fasteners. You can see that this one is a really, really good fit. It's because it's the right style for the right fastener. Now, if you use the wrong one, in this case, this is an SAE, it's 7/32, you can see that there's a large amount of play. Sometimes you might have to see which one's going to work best for you if you don't immediately know what type of fastener you're working with. So what did we learn today when it comes to 5 easy tips, tricks for rounded, stripped, hex Allen socket screws, fasteners, bolts? Well, there's a lot more than 5 easy tips and tricks. There's options like Ingersoll Rand and Mac RBRT, which might work one day, but then the next day you get to a more damaged fastener and you're going to have to use something else. Pretty cool how that triple square works, as well as that Torx bit. When you jam anything in there hard enough, it creates its own new path and allows you to remove a fastener. We saw the grinding wheel cut through one of our screws and allowed us to use a flathead on that. Well, it might work on a smaller size fastener. Some of the larger ones, it might not. We saw that we were able to weld a fastener on and remove it with a standard socket. When it comes to working with metric fasteners, you're going to want to use a metric. And when it comes to working with SAE, you're typically going to use SAE. Now, we did run into that one situation where we had a damaged metric fastener where we were able to jam in that 1/4 inch hex and it was able to remove that fastener. So there's always going to be exceptions to the case, and that's what you get pliers for. You got your easy outs. When it comes to Loctite or thread locker, you're going to want to use that heat. Now, I typically don't use my left-handed drill bits too often, but if those work well for you, let everybody know down below in the comments. If there's a way that we didn't cover today, again, let people know down below in the comments what you've had a good experience with or what doesn't work for you. Really appreciate you guys all tuning in. And if you're not already subscribed to the channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And as always, work smarter, not harder, and we'll catch you in the next video. Just a friendly reminder, go ahead and hit that subscribe button.